Hello, and welcome to another episode of We Read It One Night, the podcast where two sisters invite you to join the romance revolution by recapping our favorite romance novels. Today, we're discussing The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrun, the queer bachelor-inspired love story you've been waiting for. Bonus chats include puzzling, tic-tacs, and a debate about whether horseless carriages are just cars. Enjoy the show!
Just like to announce that my TikTok cake video has gotten over 100,000 more views in the past 24 hours, and it's inching toward 200,000 views. I would just like everyone to know that. It's one of the most exciting things that's happened to me all year. I hope it will lead to real change within the Cheesecake Factory family. However, my fear, so the video is about the cake boxes being too small for the Linda's fudge cake slice and making the top of the icing get pulled off when you open the box. My fear is that instead of making bigger boxes, they'll just make the cake smaller in order to fit.
That is a genuine fear.
Yeah.
Please finish chewing your Tic Tac.
I'm not chewing it. You don't chew Tic Tacs.
Yes, you do. I'm the Tic Tac expert in this house.
The orange Tic Tacs. You never like the minty ones.
Okay, well, I need you to finish that. I don't know why you put it in.
Why did you eat your Funyuns?
Because I can chew that and be done. I'm not sucking on my Funyun for like the next 10 minutes. Fucking gross. Speaking of gross things, I haven't been able to stop thinking of the Japanese fables.
That's definitely been like making the rounds on the internet for a long time. But I saw it most recently, the fish wife and the clam wife.
No, I feel like I've seen it before. No, but they all end with...
Should I do a reading? Don't give away the punchline. In the clam wife, I'll just read a synopsis. A man finds a beautiful woman mysteriously appear at his doorway. They become married, and the wife cooks the husband a delicious bean soup every day. He peeks in on her cooking and discovers that she is urinating clam juice into the soup, so he chases her away. No unconditional love for clams. Sad.
They all end like that, though. They all end with the wives
being chased away,
making soup out of their pee.
No, just the fish wife and the clam wife. There's also the crane wife,
which
is a little bit different.
The fox wife. There was a fox wife. She also was peeing.
I don't think so. He just figures out that she is a fox. That's the issue.
75% of these stories end with pea soup. That's what I'm saying. That's what really struck me about
I'd
this.
say 50%.
Not the fact that these asshole men didn't like their cool shape-shifting wives and chase them away. It was the fact they were making pea soup, which is why I empathize a little bit more with the asshole men, because that's fucking gross. Okay, moving on to other animals. Something I want to try out. Listeners, you should let us know whether you want this to continue in future episodes. I want to start ranking our main characters by the likelihood of them being able to fight off a bear. So in this book today we're going to talk about. We should say that first. Today we're going to talk about The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrun. Mm-hmm. Which is basically just gay bachelor. That's what you need to know. And our main characters are Dave and Charlie. And frankly, I don't think either of them would do well against a bear.
No, Charlie would have the physical power to stand his ground, hold his own. Yeah. But he would not be able to. His brain would just not be able to follow through on that.
Okay. So Dave is a producer on a bachelor-like show called Ever After. Unfortunately, no reference to the excellent Drew Barrymore movie, but that's what it's called.
That is your favorite movie. And I've said many times I'm willing to give it a second chance, even though I really don't like Drew Barrymore for some reason. But you've yet to follow through on that.
We should. I think it's on Netflix.
I think it's a great name, and the concept of it being finding your princess and just in general fairy tale.
The show, not the Drew Barrymore movie.
Oh yeah, sorry, the show. Yeah, it's just great. I think that would be They get tiaras instead of roses at the crowning ceremony.
Yeah. So yeah, Dave is a producer. His name is Dave Deshpande. He is Indian. He wears nothing but t-shirts and khaki shorts with many pockets in them.
Cargo shorts. That's what they're called.
Oh, right. But they're described as khaki shorts. They're not
cargo shorts.
Okay. Anyway. And they're all from Costco. So we'll explore this further, but like we're half certain that either Dave or Alison Cochrun had a Costco sponsorship in this book.
On both the outside and what he puts into his body for Dave comes from Costco.
Yes.
His diet is very similar to mine, except for the Costco sourcing. But
we're Sam's Club people.
Indeed.
Okay, and then we have Charlie, who is basically just like an Adonis. He's a very intelligent Adonis. He's very tall and muscular.
He's not very
and
tall.
Blonde. And he's not super tall. I mean, Dave is super tall. Dave is like a string bean.
He's 6'4",
but
yeah.
I mean, Charlie's still like 6'1". Like, you know what I mean? He's like tall for the average American man. And he's blonde and he's very smart and he's also a millionaire. Not a billionaire, I will note,
billionaire
because
is definitely said a few times.
What?
Billionaire is definitely said a few times. She's very fast and loose with those definitions.
No, you misheard. He is a millionaire, which is important because it means that he's only mildly unethical, not fully unethical, like a billionaire would be. He's like a tech guy, but not like a Zuckerberg or a Musk.
He does have his own company.
He did. He's been kicked out of his own company and he's on the show to restore his reputation. He also has there's some really good representation in this book in terms of mental illness. Also in terms of just like gender identity and race. What?
I would just like to point out that on the Barnes & Noble page, it is described as a tech billionaire. So
okay, I'm saying you misheard.
I didn't misheard anything. I read it on the Barnes & Noble page.
Okay, here's the thing, Rachel.
If I misheard, Barnes & Noble misheard.
You want to know who writes that? Barnes & Noble doesn't write those descriptions. You want to know who writes that? The like intern that works for the publisher.
You know who else describes it as billionaire? Kobo.com ebooks.
Okay, it's the same. It's the same, Rachel. It's the same site. It all goes up from the same internal database from the publisher. That's how it works. It's the same description everywhere.
Neither of us actually read this book, so she might say billionaire in some points.
No,
I didn't hear anything.
Okay, there's some good representation in this book. Overall, there are lots of, I would say it's majority people of color, majority queer people, and Dave and Charlie are obviously both queer, although Charlie doesn't figure that out until like halfway through the book. And Dave and Charlie also have various mental health conditions. Dave has severe depressive disorder, which I very much related to, and Charlie has OCD and a panic disorder and social anxiety. So if hearing about those things like panic attacks and depressive episodes is triggering for you, then this may not be the book for you. So back to the bear attack rankings. Like we said, I don't think either of them would do well like in a bear attack. Although, okay, so I think Charlie has the muscle, but like he doesn't like to be touched. He gets anxious very easily. And so I think that he would just like immediately crawl into like a fetal position, which may or may not be like the right move. Like again, we still haven't figured out the ideal way to survive a bear attack. But he certainly wouldn't be besting the bear. He would just be like surviving at best.
Yeah,
and Dave, I was initially ready to count Dave out because he is just a string bean. But I don't know. I feel like he could go feral. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like his like fight or flight could get activated and like he just like turns into like a wild raccoon or something.
Especially like given his outburst towards the end of the book. Wait, so sorry. Back to the tech billionaire. First of all, Charles Winshaw is such a bougie name just to begin with. Even if he like wasn't born rich, he feels very rich. Also, can I just say, so he's, all right, fine, billionaire, millionaire, whatever. He's a tech, mogul.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Have you not managed to find the word billionaire anywhere in the text?
I didn't look through the whole text.
I was right?
No. Anyway, listen, can I just say that in the real world, something that this made me realize, since Charles Winshaw is both good looking and a billionaire tech guy, at least right now in the early days of the tech boom, there's still justice in that the billionaires of the tech boom are not hot. I'm sure that'll change in like 1 or 2 generations as they start marrying like super hot women/men. And the next generation of super hot billionaires will be like that. But at least today, Jeff Bezos still looks like a super villain. That's all I have to say.
Jeff Bezos looks like an uncircumcised penis.
Exactly. He's not hot. I'm sure that'll change, but not that he'll become hot, but his like eventual offspring who will also still be billionaires because hereditary wealth.
Yeah. So Dave stands like maybe a chance against a bear in terms of like surefire animal instinct. Charlie stands a chance against the bear only if the bear like decides he's not worthy of eating.
Charlie doesn't do well in a conflict.
Although that part of his journey is like, you know, becoming better
Yeah.
at that and standing up for himself.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, bears don't respond well to recent arguments. So
What?
he can't advocate for himself to a bear. Like, a bear's going to be like, I don't know what garbled shit you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to eat you.
And then if we're talking about the women on the show, none of them stand a chance because Jules, I think it was Jules or Skylar, which is Dave's production assistant. In the beginning, she's like, yeah, we know exactly what kind of girl he wants. No taller than 5'6", fits seamlessly into his San Francisco life, like blah, 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 blah. That turns out to not be true, but that's like who they picked. And that just got me thinking about, I've realized this like a long time ago. And then recently I saw a video that like affirmed all my like deeply held suspicions. Have you ever noticed how most beauty standards for women are designed to make you physically weaker? Like being short, being thin, high heels, tight clothes. It's all like designed to make you not survive in a bear attack, basically.
Yeah. That's really what the patriarchy is after. Like,
Mm-hmm.
women constantly being subjugated by their fear of bears. I know it. Okay, anyway. We open on the book. It is the first day of filming. They are at the Ever After Castle / Bachelor Mansion. And Dave is remembering the first time. He is like a super fan of Ever After.
Uh-huh.
He loves it. And he remembers when he first saw it when he was like a wee little lad. And he saw Brad and Vivian, or whatever the fuck the first couple's name, they mention them frequently, falling in love. And he was like, that's what made me believe in true love. And I'm sitting here like, I've been watching The Bachelor for a long time. And there was never at any point a time in which I believed that the Bachelor franchise was like meant for true love or whatever. And I would like to note that the first season that I ever watched was Sean Lowe's season. And Sean Lowe is the only person who has ever married his final pick on The Bachelor. And they now have 3 children. So if any season was going to convince me that The Bachelor was able to produce true love, it would be that season. And so I'm like, Dave, level with me, buddy. Like, did you have some like child's cough syrup at the time? And you were just like really out of it the first time you watched the show, and like the rest, every other viewing experience was just like associated with that fever dream, or like what? Because like, man, Dave.
But were you an impressionable 5-year-old when he first saw it, however old he was?
How old am I? The season came out in 2013. So I was, no way. Wait, 2013 was 8 years ago, and I'm 25, which would mean 17, but that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, so Charlie has just had a traumatic experience on a horse. And so that's why Dave is going to get switched out to be his handler. Because, so the other thing about Dave is that up until like a few months ago, he was dating another producer on the show named Ryan for 6 years. And they recently,
sucks.
Yeah, well, he's a little bit redeemed at the end. But they recently broke up.
Sucks.
And Dave before this has always been the handler for the women. And he really likes that. And Ryan has been like the lead handler usually. But for some reason, they're like, Dave, you can do this, and Ryan can't. So they like switch them, right? Or Ryan gets like a promotion.
It's very clear that Alison Cochrun is both a Bachelor fan and is also a fan of the show. It's
Average
the Lifetime show.
No.
What?
Average Joe.
No, of the show. There was a show on Lifetime, and I'm so blanking on the name right now, but it was written or like produced by like a former Bachelor producer, and it was pretty much like, this is what it's like behind the scenes on The Bachelor. Like, that was the show, but it was like fiction. It was like, you know, it wasn't like a reality television show. But anyway, she's a very big fan of that show and the Bachelor franchise for sure.
So yeah, they're like, the show is like a little bit in the straits. Like, they haven't been doing that well. And at one point, one of them is like, oh, we have to do this unless you want the show to go the way of Average Joe, which is something you told me about.
Yeah. I was listening to Learning the Tropes, which is another romance podcast, and they were talking about Average Joe and how, like, which was, I guess, like an early 2000s reality dating show, and how one contestant was like, my ex-boyfriend, like, I have to tell you this because this is, you know, people always freak out when I tell them this, but like, it's not that big a deal, but I need to tell you. My ex-boyfriend was Fabio. And he's like, no! He's like, how do I compete with Fabio?
No, it wasn't even a contestant. She was the main one. We found the clip, remember? Like, she's the main girl. And I guess the premise of the show is that
him.
The premise of the show is that you choose between either an average Joe or like a model type guy. And she chose the model, but then told him about the Fabio thing.
Okay. So Dave gets called away from his ladies in the limo. He leaves them in the limo, drinking champagne, doing their bachelorette thing. And he goes back and he finds out that because Ryan was incapable of handling Charlie as the lead, that Dave is now going to be Charlie's handler. I guess because Ryan's specialty is like being the like dude bro and like bonding with like masculinity or whatever, and like Charlie is not like that. So we meet a lot of the other people. There is Skylar. She is like the head honcho, I'm pretty sure, like second in command of the show, and she has early female pattern baldness from the stress.
I don't even know if it's female pattern baldness.
No, it is. It said early female pattern baldness.
But her hair starts growing back at the end. So I think it's just that she's stress balding. Like, it's not female pattern baldness implies that it's like a genetic condition.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's also, Rachel mentioned earlier, Jules, who is like Dave's friend, and then eventually now is like his production assistant. And the creator of the show / head honcho is Maureen Scott, who is like a Karen on heroin.
So Charlie has been, quote, labeled a flight risk at this point, which I thought was funny. So Dave like goes to move in and he opens the door. And as he goes to open the door, Charlie decides that it's time for him to get out of the limo. So as Dave opens the door, Charlie like is mid, reach, and he just like tumbles out and sprawls at Dave's feet.
It's a meet cute.
Yeah.
It's a really cute meet cute.
Yeah, it is. But then Charlie immediately starts like Dave goes to like help him or something, and Charlie's like, "Don't touch me." But then he's like, "No, you can touch me anywhere you want. Just like hand sanitize first, please." And Dave's like, dude, your mic is hot. Like we're like recording everything." Which like, why would they do that in general? Like in general
mean?
On The Bachelor, like why doesn't the producers like want everything to get caught? Like why would he be like concerned?
Yeah, but Dave is a nice guy. He wants to bond with Charlie.
Yeah, he like shoves him back in the limo.
Yeah. And Charlie, at this point, he's like already very anxious and he thinks it's like all fake. He's like, all the women are here for fame. It's going to be a fake engagement. Like, whatever. Yeah. And he's also talking about how much Ryan sucked and how he was like scared of the horses. And that's like part of the reason that their like opening promo shots didn't go well. And I'm like, listen, I've ridden horses. I'm not scared of horses, but they are terrifying, objectively. Like, they are so tall. Like, sitting on top of one is scary.
No,
don't like it.
They're terrifying, and I wish I had never seen a huge amount of bruising that one of my fellow campmates got at summer camp one year from a horse, because that, I feel like, just it's a whole nother level. Once you know they can bite and bite hard, like they're just like large, stupid dogs, and I'm already like sometimes randomly scared of dogs. So like I don't need extra stupidity and extra largeness from my like canine friends. Yeah. Also, so the reason there's horses is because the girls get brought in on carriages, which I think is great, much better than limos, honestly. Like fairy tale theme, wonderful. However, it just made me think like, why aren't there horseless carriages? And I recognize that's what they used to call like cars back in the day, but why aren't there things that look like carriages but are like automated, like little like robots or whatever, so that the horses don't have to be like dragged into this and be like pulling people around on pavement, because that's not great for the horses. Why doesn't that exist?
Yeah. The first time you told me this idea, I thought it was stupid, and I still think it's a stupid idea now.
Like, just imagine
just cars. They're just old-fashioned cars.
No, it would look like a carriage though. Like picture like a Cinderella carriage, but it's moving around of its own like volition. It doesn't need...
and I'm talking about you. That's like the original cars. That's what they fucking look like. They were just carriages with motors. Yes. Rachel's looking this up on her computer.
Oh, yeah. Well, kind of. Sure. But I'm picturing, you're right. I think that looks cool. Okay. But I'm picturing...
How did that feel coming out of your mouth?
None of these look like Cinderella's carriage, though. That's what I think would sell.
Okay, but also like regular carriages with horses don't look like Cinderella's carriage.
You need to include this picture because this is what I'm picturing, okay?
And
it's sold at Walmart. Disney Princess 24-volt carriage-powered ride-on, and it's a children's toy. However, it's wonderful.
Listener, I'll put it in the... I'm not opening it right now. Listener, I'll put it in the description, this weird motorized Walmart carriage that Rachel...
I want it. I don't think I would fit inside it, but I want it.
Anyway, important things to note. Charlie notices that Dave has a crooked smile. And if you were already unsure about whether Dave was going to be a love interest, you know now, because a man cannot have a crooked smile in a romance and not be the love interest. I don't make the rules.
Another thing that actually is not usually strictly hero, I wouldn't say, but we're absolutely hit over the head with it, is that Charlie has a chin dimple. It's extremely important. The more times they say it, the less I think I would find it personally attractive, but it's there.
I don't know, I'm thinking more of like a Henry Cavill chin dimple, because I've also seen people whose like their chin, like it just looks like a butt.
A butt chin,
so there's that chin dimple, and then there's also like the Henry Cavill chin
The other kind looks even worse. Oh. Yeah, I'm just
saying if Charlie looked like Henry Cavill, like I'd have nothing to complain about.
Charlie could definitely be Henry Cavill, but like slightly more blonde.
What do you mean slightly more blonde? Charlie's blonde. It's not, and Henry Cavill is dark brown hair.
Well, this picture that I was looking at of Henry Cavill, his hair looked lighter. I'm picturing the fantastic chin, or like what is it? What is he from? He's from like Jimmy Neutron, or not Jimmy Neutron.
No, Timmy Turner, the Fairly Odd Parents, the Crimson Chin.
Yes, the Crimson Chin. Yes, that's what I'm picturing. And the more times it's brought up, and the more times it's like Dave bit the chin dimple, I'm like, okay, it has like a life of its own. Like, what is this like giant monstrosity? Like,
it's got to be very big. At one point, Dave is like, "Oh, there's toothpaste in his chin dimple."
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But actually, Dave, I don't think initially thinks it's attractive, because I wrote this down. Like, for like one of his first thoughts is like, oh, he's the most handsome man, even with the chin dimple. So
wow. Yeah. So Dave pushes him back into the limo, gives him a little pep talk, turns off his mic. They bond. Dave is very respectful of Charlie and like very chill. And then they go out, and Charlie's like, I can't do this. I have to quit. And Dave is like, you're not going to fucking quit. And then Charlie vomits all over Dave's juice and his terrible cargo pants. And Dave is like, this isn't anything out of the ordinary. It just usually happens later in the night from like the drunk women.
At one point, I don't know when this happens, but at one point Dave is thinking like how cute Charlie is and how he just wants to squeeze him. And it just reminds me of like the general violence urge that I have for cute things. Like, I don't know if anyone else, I never thought about this until one of my teachers for some reason brought it up in high school. I specifically remember she was like, yeah, do you guys ever just see like a really cute kitten and you just like want to throw it across the room? Like, and for me, it's like, I just like clench my teeth and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. And apparently that's like a real thing for some reason. I wonder if it's similar to the foot fetish thing, where it's like the reason people have that is because it's like close to the brain to like, you know, sexual things. So when the wires get crossed, I wonder if it's like violence and cuteness are like very close to the brain. Yeah. And so like they just get switched a little bit.
You just want to like kill it a little bit.
But not really, but just like it's the same as like teeth clenching when you're angry, but it's like, it's so cute. I can't. Like,
yeah. No, I used to want to bite Peggy. Peggy was our old pug, like all the time. I would be like, oh my God, I just want to like so bite your head.
I remember being afraid because her ears were so velvety. I remember being afraid that someone would like kidnap her and steal her ears to make velvet.
She does have very soft ears. Okay. So Dave is like ruffling Charlie's hair, trying to like calm him down. Charlie is blushing and he like doesn't understand why, but it's clearly because he's in love with Dave already.
Yep.
And Charlie specifically, like Dave describes Charlie's teeth as straight and white. And I'm like, that's the only straight thing about him.
Charlie tells Dave that he thinks like Ever After is fake. And Dave gets like really offended by that because his like, you know, he obviously thinks it's very real and like fairy tale love is real. And his old boyfriend Ryan thought it was fake. So it's like a trigger for him. But I'm sitting here thinking like, just because Charlie thinks The Bachelor Ever After is fake, it doesn't mean that he thinks that like love is fake. You know, it's not synonymous. Like Dave, you got to like do a little, and Dave will do the work here to like separate that. But
yeah. Well, Charlie does also kind of think love is fake.
Yeah, I guess
he doesn't
so.
Like it's never happened to him because of his various like anxieties and also the fact that he's gay and not into women at all.
Yeah. Also, this whole time I'm thinking, and this continues until they finally do get him drunk. I'm like, why don't they actually just get Charlie a little bit drunk? Like that might have backfired, and you know, anxiety can definitely be like heightened by being drunk. But we find out later that Charlie definitely does loosen up a little bit when he's like had a little bit to drink. So like he's already going to be throwing up. Why not like, you know?
Oh my God.
I just don't understand. Okay. Seems to be their MO every other time.
But Dave is like, Charlie, what's your type? And Charlie's like, I don't have a type. And I'm like, that's because he likes men, Dave. He doesn't have a type of woman because it's no women.
The Dave narrator does a great Cruella de Vil voice for Maureen. Like, he's just off the charts. Wonderful. Like,
Mhm.
honestly, I would say these narrators had, like, a much bigger range for female character voices than usual. I feel like usually male narrators will have, like, a normal-ish female voice and then, like, an annoying female voice for, like, the side characters, you know? Or the worst case is that their general voice is that, like, weird, like, action movie, like, seductress voice, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
horrible.
Yeah. So, they did a good job.
So Charlie starts to meet the women. He's very awkward. The first woman out is Daphne Reynolds. And Rachel, I will say that I led you astray because Daphne Reynolds, I thought in my head, I was like, oh, that's the name of the Scooby-Doo character. It's not the name of the Scooby-Doo character. The Scooby-Doo character is named Daphne Blake, but it is the name of the character from What a Girl Wants.
Oh,
Daphne I was like, I
yes.
know I recognize
Wow.
this name from somewhere. She doesn't look anything like Amanda Bynes. She honestly like looks more like the evil stepsister, like the way she's described. But yeah, same name. I don't think on purpose. I think it's probably like a subconscious thing.
I just kept thinking Debbie Reynolds, but also for some reason picturing Marnie from Halloween Town. I don't know why the name Debbie, just like
Debbie Reynolds is in Halloween Town. She plays the grandmother.
Oh, okay. So then that's why. But there's also another Debbie who's like Disney Channel related. Isn't
Oh,
there?
Debbie Ryan.
Debbie Ryan. That's like, yeah. So Debbie Ryan, for some reason, kind of looks like, she doesn't really look like her, but like kind of reminds me of like Marnie. And then like
It's a square chin
the
and
Debbie
like the chubby
and
cheeks.
the hair color
Yeah.
sort of. So like for some reason I'm picturing Marnie this entire time.
Yeah. She doesn't look anything. She just looks like Barbie. Like that's how she described Daphne Reynolds. Some of the other important women is Angie, who is bisexual and biracial.
And going to medical school, right?
Yeah, like she's amazing. I would like to date Angie if you're real and also available. Hit me up. What's the villain?
Oh, Megan,
she's the villain of the season. And then there's like there's like a Sabrina, and then there's Lauren L. And they're only really relevant because they make it to the top 4.
Yeah.
And everyone else is just sort of like in the background, which is also very accurate to The Bachelor. Like I don't really bother memorizing people's names unless like I think they're cute or unless like they make it to the top 6.
Yep.
So yeah, Charlie is awkward, but Dave manages to loosen him up, to clean the throw up out of his chin dimple. He meets all the women. He immediately forgets their names, which I very much relate to. And the night is off. Until Maureen Scott proves why she sucks so much and brings in the current / ex-boyfriend of one of the women, which is a very common Bachelor trope. And he starts slut shaming her and like yelling at her. And Charlie has social anxiety. So he's like, I don't know what the fuck to do right now, but I don't like that you're slut shaming her. And then Charlie gets punched in the face.
Yep. And I don't really understand how this makes Charlie look bad, except that he like freezes up, I guess. But he's like on the verge of like, you know, giving him a piece of his mind, but then he just gets punched in the face. So I don't understand how this would make Charlie look bad.
And Dave doesn't do anything. That's important. Dave like is about to rush out to stop him, and then Ryan is like, dude, no, it's good TV. I thought that was like a very good impression of the Ryan voice.
Yeah, good job.
And yeah, but then like Charlie has 2 black eyes, and Maureen is like, oh, I hope you don't know, like we didn't bring him on purpose. And Charlie like obviously sees through her bullshit, but like he signed like really restrictive contracts or whatever.
But he could definitely afford to like get out of it this whole time, I feel like.
Yeah. But he wants to restore his reputation. That's sort of the thing. Like he's rich enough to buy himself out of this contract, but like it's going to make his reputation worse if he like dips. So Charlie has 2 black eyes, and Dave and him are bonding in the medical tent before the crowning ceremony, which is like the rose ceremony.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, I don't know. They're just like bonding, and they're both like, Charlie's anxious and Dave is like thinking about how like he gets bursts of energy and then he crashes into depressive episodes.
Bursts of energy where he eats a lot of Costco cookies.
Yeah. And I don't know, this book just kind of like squeezes my little queer neurodivergent heart.
Are we going to talk about, I don't know if this is like appropriate or not, but I feel like Charlie was very like coded as if he was on the spectrum, but like not at all explicitly. There was just like a lot of little things. Like he doesn't like to be touched. He needs warning. He has meltdowns.
He has certain like restrictions about clothing, like sensitivities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I wonder. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to diagnose. I know Alison Cochrun like very much wrote from her own experience for both of these characters, and obviously she knows herself better than we do. But yeah, it was interesting. Like Charlie was very much like coded in that way, but I also am like not familiar enough with like the intricacies of an anxiety and a panic disorder and like OCD, because like there are comorbidities for like most things. There's like a lot of overlap for neurodivergency. So I don't know. But yeah, Charlie's like, I can't do this. Dave is giving me the pep talk and he's like, I can make you fall in love. And I was like, yes, yeah, you can. You can make him fall in love with you.
Yep. And so for some reason, Maureen Scott thought it would be a good idea to force Dave and Charlie to live together this whole time.
Because like Charlie's a flight risk.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. But I'm just like, girl, like it just also from what we learn about her later, like she's very
homophobic and racist.
Yeah. So it seems, I don't know.
She's like wildly abusive. I mean, you find that like Skylar's hair falling out, everyone's on edge when Maureen Scott is around. And you really see that later, like at the end, like she leaves for a little bit and then comes back. And Charlie is like, everyone was chill and like relaxed before. And like now that Maureen Scott is here, they're all like really on edge. So it's very much like a super abusive work environment. And I guess that like Maureen Scott is like so confident in her own abilities to like control.
Dave does like hero worship her this whole like for most of this book. He's still like very much convinced that she is creating this like wonderful vision and everything she does is just like for the good of the show.
Yeah.
So where were we?
So we do the crowning ceremony. It's like, I mean, I'm sorry that if you got like, if people listening, I'm sorry if you like aren't at all familiar with The Bachelor, which I recognize is probably the case for a lot of you, because I'm just going to be comparing everything to The Bachelor and probably not giving that much explanation for what it's like. Just read like a summary of like the latest season of The Bachelor. And like, there you go. Charlie's doing morning yoga. And he got in his contract. So, it's like commonly known that people on The Bachelor like don't have access to their phones or any technology, but Charlie got that in his contract that his publicist negotiated, and his publicist is named Parisa, and they like do face masks together and they're cute, and like she sexually objectifies him in a joking way, and like they bond and they love each other. And like she's like his little like voice of reason, which is important for Charlie to have.
For some reason, he puts that conversation on speaker, even though Dave's in the next room. So it's like, are you trying to be like, look at me, like I have friends? I don't know, like, but it's nice.
So now we have the first group date, which is I think they're called group quests.
Yep.
Angie and Charlie kiss at like the night portion of the date, and Charlie has a panic attack, like he like can't handle it. And Dave like really talks him down, and like also at one point holds his hand. I don't know at what point, but like he holds Charlie's hand, and Charlie's like, why does this feel so different from holding the hands of all the other women? And this is when Dave has his Costco like coffee and his Costco cookies, and we were just like at this point like, okay, there's some sort of Costco sponsorship.
Khaki coffee cookies. It's the trifecta.
The three C's of Costco. Yeah, at this point we were like, there's some sort of sponsorship going on. Like I know how ads are looped into movies. I'm in the know.
We did have to watch Elf in middle school and have to like pick out every single product placement. And then you also got extra credit for picking out the 3 menorahs.
Wow.
We're informed consumers. Did you not have to do that?
No.
You
took a film class in high school?
No, this was in health in middle school. It was a mandatory class.
Oh, we didn't do that. No. Everyone had different health and gym teachers. There was like 10 gym teachers that like all rotated. I had coach for health, and that's where I learned that staying alive had the same beat of CPR. So like when you're giving CPR to someone, you're like, staying alive.
He was full of fun facts because he also was in like a badminton league, and he's the one who I learned that badminton is the fastest sport in the world. The shuttlecock goes like so fast. I don't know how, but like hundreds of miles an hour in the first like few microseconds after it's hit. Yeah. And I've always wondered where that badminton league exists, because like now that I'm an adult, I could join it.
Yeah. He also told us once about the fact that he has like no like pain receptors in his arm or something, or like his hand, because he was like, yeah, I like sliced my hand open and I just like didn't feel anything. And I was like, you're insane. He's like, I just like went upstairs to my wife and I was like, honey, we got to go to the hospital. was like,
somehow that's an
sir.
advantage in badminton or something.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Maybe he doesn't even use a racket.
And
He just like
CPR
whacks with
because you
his
don't get
hands.
tired. Yeah.
What a guy.
Yeah. Wow. If he's still out there, what a blessing to the children of the middle school.
Listen, you were cool, which is shocking, but he was very much like a sports bro. Like you would think that he'd be one of those people that only valued like the super athletic kids, but like no, he was very chill. Good man. Good on
Man
you.
played badminton. I have yet to meet an untrustworthy badminton player.
That's true. You're right. Please, nobody prove us wrong. Don't email. Like if you know of some like scandal in the badminton world, like I don't want to know about it. Let me live in my naivete.
Yeah. Okay, so this is when Dave gets the idea to do his fake date, and he's like, "What Charlie needs is some practice. So I'll just take him out on a date for practice."
No other reason.
Definitely not. So they go to like a typical, I guess, like first date for most people, which is just like they go out to breakfast, I think. It's like a really crowded cafe brunch. And Charlie does not like crowded places, which I feel you with that, Charlie. I'm like just constantly looking for escape routes. And they're sitting there and Charlie's like very much on edge and he's like, I'm vegan and what else? Dairy free or gluten free? No, obviously dairy free.
He's like very healthy.
Well, he's like trying to get out of it. He's like, I'm vegan and gluten free. Like, I don't know if we'll be able to find anywhere. And Dave's like, this is LA. Like, we'll be able to find somewhere that's both vegan and gluten free. Like, okay. So he like drags him to this cafe and Charlie's very uncomfortable. And there's like, they're both like sitting under the table. And I guess as we said before, they're both like pretty tall. So their knees are like bumping against each other. And I think Dave is the one who's like, oh, it's like the first night handshake all over again, but with knees. Like, yeah. So Dave like eventually is like, wow, I was doing this like fake date, but I didn't practice date, but I didn't even think to like ask Charlie what he would want to do. And Charlie's like, well, I like puzzling. I like doing puzzles, which so do we. We love puzzles. And I appreciate that he likes to do puzzles while also like watching or listening to something else because we always listen to audiobooks and Charlie likes to watch The Expanse, which is like a science sci-fi show that he likes. Silent puzzling is just not it. Like I need like some kind like puzzling is a great thing to do like while ingesting information in another form. Yeah.
But I want to point out my own personal vindication, which is that Charlie not only looks at the picture when he's puzzling, but he has a display stand for the picture so he can see it at all times. And listener, let me fill you in on this. So we puzzle with our mom. It's the three of us. And it's mostly our mom, but Rachel also sometimes joins in attacking me about looking at the picture during the puzzle because they're like, oh, it's cheating.
It makes
Why are you always looking at the picture?
No, it just makes it go too
And
fast.
I'm just saying, Charlie fucking Winshaw not only looks at the picture, but has a display stand for it. And I am vindicated. It's the vindication of the rights of puzzlers.
I don't know why you're trying to embarrass Charlie like this.
Why do you want to make it hard? Like, why are you trying to make puzzles? We do like 1,000-piece puzzles minimum. We're currently doing like a 2,000-piece puzzle. Like, that's hard enough. Like, the difficulty of the puzzle is finding all the pieces. So they go and do a little puzzle date.
Puzzing. Dave calls it puzzing. Dave says that, which is a mistake. He did not have put that into Charlie's.
It's like me, how in the 4th grade I did a project on Betsy Ross, who sewed the original American flag. And while I was doing research on her, I was like, why is sew spelled Sue? Like, that's so dumb. It should be pronounced Sue, just in my head. And then during my presentation, I was like, Betsy Ross sued the first American flag. And to this day, that was in the 4th grade. To this day, I still, in my head, I'm like, Sue. My brain has never been able to get that out.
I have so many words like that. It's like heroine instead of heroin. I'm like, it's a hero. It's a heroine. Why would it be like the drug? It's not heroin.
Yeah.
Like it is heroin.
It is. Anyway. Yeah. So Dave punches like Charlie in the arm and like congratulations, like a friendly bro punch, and then like massages his bicep, and Charlie just like leans into he's just like, oh my god, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm like, for a man that doesn't like touching, you sure do like Dave's touches.
Charlie is the classic like, oh, I exercise so much because it helps with my anxiety, which I had to like fact check this, and I did look into it. I always thought of for some, I guess this is just like me not knowing, but apparently weightlifting can be good for like anxiety. It's not just like running and like aerobic exercise. Keep that in mind. If you hate running, you can still
exercise produces endorphins, and
Yeah.
endorphins make you happy, and happy people just don't kill their husbands or have social anxiety.
This is just my own personal bias, I guess, but for some reason I just think of weightlifting as like something you do to like look good and not actually something that like, but I guess it is. It is.
No.
Yeah. No, I mean, I take it. It's absolutely
good for like
wrong.
long-term health, because if you have muscles, like they're constantly like,
Yeah,
they're more efficiently burning calories.
no,
and
I
it,
know
like,
this
helps,
to be
whatever.
true. I know I'm wrong. It's just what I was thinking of it as.
Okay. So Parisa and Charlie do face masks. That's cute. I just like that they do face masks.
Yeah.
And then Charlie he's washing his face from the face mask.
Mhm.
And Dave comes into the bathroom and surprises him. And it's described as like, Charlie drops his towel. And in my head, I was like, despite the fact that Charlie did not just shower, I was like, oh my God, he had a towel around his waist and he's dropped it. And now he's standing in the nude. And then I was like, why isn't anyone commenting on the fact that Charlie's just standing in the nude in this shower? And then I realized that it was just his face towel. And it was like a big disappointment for me, because like I really wanted him to just be standing in the nude.
Yeah. I was thinking of it as like a Blackstone Dragon situation where Matthew is just like conducting an entire conversation with his siblings while completely naked and no one says anything. And or Matthew is going to the hospital completely naked. And like eventually they give him some clothes.
Oh my God. Unfortunately not.
As we learn, the next group quest is the women having to find frogs and kiss them.
Horrible.
Which is just like recipe for straight salmonella. And I know this because I have a friend. I was at summer camp in middle school, and for some reason, like, I don't remember, we had like a prank war with like, this was like church camp, obviously. So we had like some kind of prank war going with like another church group, and we thought it would be like funny to put frogs in their tent because it's something else they'd done to us. This was not unprovoked. Okay.
Wait, this is real? This isn't a dream?
This is real. This is real.
What the fuck, Rachel? Why haven't I heard of this?
And
is it because you're so ashamed of it that you've never told me about it?
I'm not ashamed. I'm not the one who got salmonella. Anyway, we did that, and then my friend straight up got salmonella. I'm not going to name names here, but you know who I'm talking about. And it was traumatic for everyone involved.
Oh, that's how she got salmonella? Wow.
We didn't kiss the frogs. That was just from like touching the frogs.
What a
and
twist.
I guess like inadvertently touching, you know.
Meanwhile, I've been chugging like bowlfuls of raw brownie mix for like decades, and salmonella has yet to get me.
You only recently learned that you can also get salmonella from the raw flour.
Yeah, what
like,
the
that's
fuck?
That's also bad for you. Yeah.
I don't care. I've also been eating raw
I don't care
dough,
either. Yeah,
like,
I don't care.
for years. Like anytime our grandma makes something, I just like a little nibble.
It's not living if it's not raw dough.
What?
I don't know. I'm just adapting a song.
Are you just making? Oh, I was like, is that a real song?
No, it is a real song. It's by the 1975 or 1980? 1975. It's not living if it's not with you. It's not living.
Oh no! I thought specifically the raw dough lyrics were a real song. It's like that. Oh shit! What was that song? The pussy song.
What?
The song where the guy is like
my back.
No. The like 1970s song that we listened to.
Oh fuck! The Coca Cola.
Yeah, of like my pussy tastes like Coca Cola.
Oh yeah. Okay, no. That's the Lana Del Rey song that made me think of that because okay. So apparently we learned this. Where did we learn this? From like a podcast?
How apparently it was Dirty Sexy History.
So yeah,
how they use Coca Cola douching as like birth control.
Yeah, like everyone knows that Coca Cola used to have cocaine. So like I guess it used to maybe be mildly effective, but also like wildly harmful. But people kept doing that. They would shake up a bottle and sit on it. They kept doing it for like years after. Right. And then there's a song from the 50s about I forget what the like rhythm was, but it was like Coca Cola Douche. She got that Coca Cola Douche. And then it made me think of the song Cola by Lana Del Rey. I haven't found anything to corroborate this, but the beginning of that song is my pussy tastes like Pepsi Cola, right? And I'm sure Pepsi was also used. It wasn't like exclusive to Coke. So I'm like, is Lana also referencing this? What's the connection here? I don't think there is a connection, but like it all just came together, you know, when you had one of those moments of like kismet.
Anyway, we'll link to that song below. I'm just gonna put a little content warning on the Coca Cola pussy song.
Coca Cola Douche.
The Coca Cola Douche song. they're very excessive to an extent, like slurping and like sucking sounds in that song. So if that's something that does not appeal to you, it doesn't appeal to me, but I like managed to listen to the song fine. But just so you know, like before you listen to that song, that it's a little gross. It's a little grody. They're very exuberant. They really get into character while singing this song. Yeah, so there's the kissing the frog group date, and then there's a Daphne and Charlie have like a one-on-one, and it's a disaster because Charlie's once again awkward and Dave comforts him, and then Ryan storms in and he like calls Charlie crazy, which is very triggering for both Charlie and Dave because they both have mental health issues, and like being called crazy has very negative connotations. Dave like calls Ryan out. He's like, don't like, did you think I was crazy when we dated? And like Ryan like gaslights him. It's like, why are you being so sensitive? Like he's like, you're being absurd. And like, I don't care. Like I know we get a little bit of redeeming of Ryan like later, but like he still sucks. Like there's still like a lot of like the reason they broke up is because, well, it had been like 6 years of building up, but like on Dave's 28th birthday was like a surprise party thrown by Jules, and Ryan showed up with a girl's Goonies t-shirt he got from Target like right before the party, like in the Target bag.
Yeah.
And Dave was like, oh, he like for like my birthday, like he didn't even get me, like he didn't even put any thought into like this gift, and he didn't even get me something that fits me. And I'm like I don't really care what Ryan's explanation is. Like he's still a shitty partner.
Here's the thing about Ryan, that circling back to the love hypothesis, remember how we were saying that like we should have known Tom was going to be a baddie because he was the favorite of the abusive advisor? Ryan is Maureen's favorite, right? So like he has the favor of like the shitty like overlord abusive boss. So red flag.
I think I'm just like have very low tolerance for people who are like unsatisfied in their relationship and don't just break up with people.
Well, I don't think Ryan was unsatisfied.
At one point later, Ryan is like, Dave is constantly like, oh, I have to be fun Dave all the time, and I have to like put on this mask. And like Ryan never wanted not fun Dave, and he like confronts Ryan about that, and Ryan is like, you never let me see anyone besides fun Dave. Like whenever you would have depressive episodes, you would push me away. Whenever I would recommend therapy, you would like bite my head off. And like, listen, I understand. I understand where Ryan's coming from. I understand him being like, well, you never let me in. But they were together for 6 years, you know? And I'm like, at some point you have to be like, if you're not going to let me in, then we're not together anymore. And then Ryan still treated him like Ryan didn't give him a fucking birthday present. Ryan like was very like dismissive.
Ryan was always very upfront about not believing in like marriage and true love the same way Dave does.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dave was definitely, they shouldn't have been together in the first place, but I just like, it doesn't excuse it for me from Ryan.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, back at the ranch, Dave and Charlie are talking about how Dave had an like aspiring childhood dream of being a filmmaker. And while Dave is telling him this is from Charlie's perspective, Dave smiles, and it's described as like parabolas extending up from his mouth, like his wide smile. And all I can picture is the cartoon Grinch smiling like that, like you're a mean one, and like his just mouth like goes up. And like between this and the fact that like Dave can control both his eyebrows like individually, like he can like raise them, like he can do like a little wave with his eyebrows, it's possible that Dave is like secretly Jim Carrey, I think. You know what I mean? Because he has so much control over his facial muscles.
Yeah, because Jim Carrey, didn't you say like they were originally going to do like a bunch of prosthetics and like fake shit for the Grinch, like the live action Grinch, but Jim Carrey was like, nah, I can just do all that. We don't need
with my face.
I don't need any help.
Yeah. In case anyone who didn't know, the live action Grinch, like that is not CGI or like any sort of special effects. It's literally just fucking Jim Carrey's face painted green. Like it's just Jim Carrey's face. Like he is just capable of making all of those facial expressions. It's wild the amount of control this man has over his face. But Charlie's like, oh, can I read your script? Because Dave has written a script. It is like a queer Bollywood-inspired rom-com with like all Desi main characters. And Dave is very hesitant to let him read a script, but Charlie's like, please let me read your script. But before he reads the script, Dave spills shit all over his shirt. and he has a big stain, and Charlie has like an OCD panic attack.
Wanting to soak it.
It's very cute, but also very sad how confused Charlie is by the fact that like Dave isn't being mean about his anxiety attack, that he's not like making fun of him or like yelling at him about it, that he's just being very understanding. It always makes me so sad when characters are like, this person treated me like a human being? What? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I just want to wrap them in a little blanket.
This is when the Costco sponsorship just like comes in full force. Because he's just like, it's just a shirt, Charlie. They come in Costco 3-packs. Is this when the Morse code thing comes in? Charlie and or Dave is like tapping a word. I can't remember what word. Like calm. And they both know Morse code, which is just like excellent. More people should learn Morse code. I don't like fully know Morse code. I made an effort to learn the alphabet like 5 years ago. Got like maybe 85% of the way through. But
I know SOS.
Yeah, that's the important thing to know. I'll demonstrate for everyone. Ready?
Oh, is this the time to tell my Morse code story?
Oh my God.
Okay, so
this was during the pandemic.
It was early in the pandemic. I think it was 2020. And we were all at my mom's house, like my brother, Rachel, and me. We're on the same house, and I kept waking up at like 2-3 in the morning. It was like the same time every night. And hearing this like vibrating, buzzing, pulsing sound that was SOS. It was Morse code for SOS. And it was like bum, 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 bum. And our house, there's like woods, and then there's like a highway behind it. And sometimes you can hear like when there's big trucks. And so I was like, maybe there's just like the way that the road is, like when the big trucks go over like something in the road, like it's making this Morse code. And then I was like, is someone living in our attic and like typing out this Morse code? Like, is it aliens? Like, I could not figure it out. It was like I was having such an existential crisis about it. And then I realized, I don't know how I realized this, but I realized that it was actually our brother's phone.
No, because you were like, it's coming from the back of the house. Like, what's your ringtone?
Yeah. And it was Stefan's fucking phone. His buzz vibrating pattern for some reason was set to SOS, which is an actual setting that you can have on an iPhone. And so I guess like people were just blowing up his phone at like 2-3 in the morning, and like our walls are very thin, so I could hear everything. And I was like being like driven slowly insane by this fucking ringtone.
Which is really weird because my room is in between your two rooms, and I was not being woken up from it. And I'm like a very, very light sleeper. Like usually, like Stefan and I have had many fights about him like being up at 3 a.m. gaming and keeping me up. But it's just something about the resonance. It was just maybe it really was like aliens asking for help, and then like they got the help.
Sorry, aliens,
so they had to like
you're listening. I'm
gaslight
sorry.
you into thinking it was just the phone.
Oh my God, it was horrible. Okay, so Charlie stays up all night to read Dave's script, and he is like, I've never read a story about gay people before, and I feel really seen. He's like, why do I relate so much to this story? And at this point, he's still like, no, I definitely like women. There's like no way that I'm queer.
He's like, I don't like anyone.
He's like, what the fuck? And he's having like severe gay panic. And he tells Dave that he can't sleep because of the show, but it was actually his gay panic. And then he fucking masturbates to Dave. He starts masturbating after reading the script. And he's picturing Dave, and he's like, oh, I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me.
Daphne's face on Dave's body.
He tries, but then like Dave's eyes. Yeah. He like tries to picture Daphne's face, but it's just
he's like Angie's face with Dave's eyes on Dave's body.
With Dave, I'm pretty sure Dave has described Rachel as having cow's eyes, like brown, like wide cow's eyes.
Oh,
you're vindicated.
Cute. Yeah, cows are so cute. They're so soulful.
Are you eating a Tic Tac again?
No comment.
I saw it in your mouth.
I'm not accepting criticism at this time.
Swallow the Tic Tac.
So the next morning,
swallow it.
No, Dave.
Open your mouth. Open your mouth. I just feel like the cat skill for you. Like I feel like you're a dog, and I like have pinching the side of your cheeks, being like, "What do you have in your mouth? What do you have in your mouth?"
They're so young. They're so good. I haven't had one in years.
Stop eating them. You can wait. You can wait until we're done.
I'm so hungry.
Tic Tacs have 1 calorie in them, Rachel. They're not sustaining your hunger.
All right. So the next morning, Dave decides to make pancakes. And Charlie is like, these pancakes are fucking disgusting. But of course he still eats them. They're somehow both burned on the outside and raw on the inside, which if you've never fallen prey to that particular temptation of like cranking the heat up to like cook the pancakes faster, don't try it. It does not work. Me and Dave can both attest to that. There's only one speed at which pancakes cook, and it's slow. And if you're not ready for that, you can't have pancakes really. Also, I don't remember how this comes up, but Charlie says something about feeling like he's like making a lot of saliva or something, right? Or that his mouth is dry. I don't remember which one it is, but it just got me thinking, is it possible that saliva production is constant? Somehow like you always produce the same amount of saliva no matter how old you are? Because I remember as a kid just like constantly feeling I had so much spit in my mouth. And at the dentist, especially when the dental hygienist is doing the cleaning and having to keep your mouth open, I'd feel like I was like drowning in like pools of spit. Like it would just be like welling up in my mouth and feeling so awkward. And then like as soon as she would take the implement out, I would like try to swallow real fast. And then they're always like, "Are you okay?" But that happens less now that I'm an adult. And like sometimes my mouth will even be dry when I wake up instead of the opposite of like feeling like I have to swallow all the time. So yeah, food for thought. If anyone knows the answer to that. I really doubt that it's true, but I feel like it's something that's possibly – it's like the same way that your eyes are the same size. You know, they don't grow.
Mm-hmm.
Is your saliva production the same size?
I don't know.
Okay. Also, during the pancake eating episode, Dave is like to Charlie, he's like, "You're staring at me. Do I have something on my face?" And Charlie is like, I don't know if he thinks this or says it out loud. He's like, "You always have something on your face," which is just like – come on, Dave. Come on.
Like, so grubby.
Carry around a hand mirror if you have to. Use shiny surfaces that present themselves like the rest of us. He also then, this might be later, but he is eating cheddar popcorn and then wipes his white cheddar popcorn fingers on his shirt.
On his black t-shirt.
So grubby.
It's hard. Dave, simmer down. So we have, fast forward, we have like more disastrous dates. Charlie has panic attacks. Dave's comforts him. It's sort of like a cycle. Dave also, just important, he has a lot of pet names for Charlie. He calls Charlie Love all the time, which like I really enjoy. I really enjoy when heroes call their significant others Love.
It works here. It doesn't always work for me. It feels like random, but here it feels very much like calming and like.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the way the narrator said it. Yeah, I feel like I agree. I feel like the only time it usually works for me is in like historicals.
No,
I don't know that I've ever seen a contemporary do it. There's just something about like imagining a British man saying like love that is just like very like good for me. But Dave is not British and it's still good for him. So well done, Dave. And well done, I think the narrator. Like just the way they
both did a great job. There was two different narrators.
Yeah, because it's dual perspective. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, they're in New Orleans because the show travels to a lot of different places and does all these cool dates. So they go to New Orleans and they're taking Charlie out.
To New Orleans?
I'll link to that SNL skit.
Yeah.
And Dave is like, "Well, I am a fashion loser and I only wear t-shirts and cargo shorts. So I need to borrow a jean jacket from you,
I need to borrow something." Yeah. And then the jean jacket's the only thing that's like remotely
not like business casual.
Yeah. And
Dave is like, "This is great. It's like very big on him." And he's like, "Naturally, it's big on me because Charlie could cover Dave like a duvet."
Yeah. This is the first time, but not the last time that is used. And it's great every time.
Mm-hmm. It's lovely. And Dave is like, "I haven't had sex in 3 months," or whenever the fuck he and Ryan broke up. "And I'm gonna hook up with someone tonight." And Charlie gets super drunk super quickly. And he's like constantly going up to people and he's like, "Meet my friend Dave. Dave is beautiful and I love him." And the people are like, "You're beautiful and I love you." And Charlie's like, "No, my friend Dave."
Charlie's like, "That's a very nice offer, but I'm currently dating 10 women on a reality television show." Also, Dave is like, "Wow, Charlie Winshaw is the first person who ever told me I was beautiful."
Yeah. Dave gets very overwhelmed because of his huge crush on Charlie, and he goes outside to get some air. And then Charlie is like looking around for Dave, and it's like so tender. He's like, "Oh my God, where's Dave?" Like, "Oh no." And he goes outside, and they're both very drunk, and they have a drunk kiss against the wall in New Orleans. And after they finish kissing, Charlie's like, "Thank you to Dave. He's so cute. And Charlie does ask for consent. I want to emphasize. Consent is very much emphasized in this book.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning, they're both very hungover.
So Charlie's like huddled in the tub or something when Jules comes in to get him. And then Dave comes in afterwards holding a huge coffee cup. And he's like, "You ready to go?" He says condescendingly. And then as he's just, the visual image I want you to have is just like standing there holding the cup, turns a fraction of a degree towards the sink, throws up in the sink, stands up, blots the corners of his mouth. And what did you say? You were like, it's like a Sims character.
It's like he seems like a Sims. Like this is what a Sims would do. And these two dummies both pretend not to remember the kiss because they're both dummies. Yeah, now they're making floats. It's a group date. They're making floats, and there's like a cute paint fight that started by
Erotic
Angie and Daphne. Yeah, and I was I the only one that wanted like Angie and Daphne to end up together at the end of this? Because like they constantly are having very cute sapphic moments. Unfortunately not the case, but do remember the queer coding when it comes to Daphne. That is important, my friends. And then it's Charlie's birthday.
Yeah, and he tries to like conceal that from everyone, and I'm like, dude, like you presumably have like a Wikipedia page.
They have
like,
a file on you.
Yeah, you had to like, right, like that's like the baseline. They definitely have your passport information. Like, what?
Yeah. But Dave throws him a surprise birthday party and flies in Parisa.
Yeah, no one from his family like texts him or anything to say that.
Yeah, Charlie's family sucks.
Yeah, he flies him in and they're like, "You have no idea how hard it was to find a gluten-free carrot cake in this city." And I was just like, why does it have to be a carrot cake? It's just very random. Like there's no indication. Maybe one time Charlie was like to Dave, he was like trying to bond and he's like, "I just love Costco's carrot cakes" or something. But like I looked it up. Like I don't think a carrot cake is not any easier to make gluten-free or vegan than any other cake. You know, like it's cream cheese icing. Like the icing flavoring is like inherently animal products. So I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
But Dave and Parisa are talking. And we mentioned earlier that Parisa was always sexually objectifying Charlie, but in like a cute, fun way. And Dave is like, "Why have you and Charlie never hooked up?" And the tone of it is basically just like, "What's wrong with my boyfriend? Why wouldn't you be attracted to my boyfriend? Why wouldn't you want to hook up with my boyfriend, Parisa? What the fuck?" And Parisa is just like, "Yeah, it's just because we're friends."
Charlie has also touted and told Parisa about the screenplay, which Dave isn't that mad about, but like I feel like it was kind of a breach of trust because Parisa's like, "Oh, I could try to get you an agent or whatever," and Dave's like, "No," because Parisa's a publicist, like we know that, a publicist / lawyer / just like jack of all trades. Yeah, like I don't.
If you're a publicist, there's a very good chance that you are like knowledgeable about like entertainment contracts and like how they work. I don't know if something as big as like The Bachelor, like being on like a Bachelor like show would like not require just like a separate entertainment lawyer to look it over, but like publicists definitely, like if you're like one person specific publicist, you definitely like know what standard language is and isn't. Parisa's just a jack of all trades and she's lovely. And she's going to be traveling with them over the next week or so as a surprise for Charlie. And then later that night,
we get the duvet thing again.
Really?
Yeah. I wrote that down.
Amazing. Dave confronts Charlie about kissing him. And they do like a whole like tough, like Dave's pressed Charlie against the wall. And he's like, "Admit you kissed me."
He's like, "See who'll move first."
Yeah. And then they kiss for real. Because they're just both dummies.
Dave is still gaslighting him. He's like, "Maybe if you keep developing genuine emotional connections with the women, you'll be able to enjoy kissing them too. We'll just practice kissing."
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave just like keeps trying to throw Charlie back in the closet. And I'm like, "Sir." He's like banging at the door, begging to be let out. He's kissing you of his own free will. Like, what makes you think that he's straight? What are you doing, Dave?
And Charlie, is this when he says, like, "I think I really like you"? And Dave is like, and the confession is like Nitro and Sour Patch Kids consumed intravenously.
I don't know. So freshman year of college, my friends got me a 5-pound bag of Sour Patch watermelon, which are delicious and like superior to Sour Patch Kids, and then wouldn't help me eat it. Like they were like, no, it's your birthday present. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I ended up getting 3 cavities from this. Also from the fact that I would like eat the Sour Patch watermelon and then I would go take a nap and like not brush my teeth. So like that was definitely a contributing factor. But friends, just be careful. If you ever decide to order a Sour Patch watermelon bag, make sure you brush your teeth.
Only about 30% of people agree with you on Sour Patch watermelon being better than Sour Patch Kids on our Instagram poll.
My vote counts. My vote counts as like 50. So I don't know why you're telling me this.
You would like to participate in our Instagram polls? Go head on over and follow us at We Read It One Night.
And then, okay, so Parisa, she's traveling with them, but in order to like convince Maureen to let her travel with them, she has to be like participate on the show. So it's just like the classic Bachelor move where like the best friend / sister / whatever comes in and like grills all the contestants like about, do you love my best friend? But she makes all the women cry. And I know that shouldn't be funny, but it is.
Yeah, they're like, I think Jules or something is like, I thought she was going to be tough. I didn't know she was going to make them cry.
Now they're flying to Munich. And Dave has a depressive episode and Charlie is upset, but he like helps him and he cuddles with him on the bed. And he's also very upset that like none of the other crewmates are like doing anything to help Dave. They're like, he's like, why are you ignoring him? But I will help him because he is my boyfriend.
And despite the fact that Dave is like telling him to leave. They once again decide to put Charlie on a horse for some reason. And Skylar, quote, won't let him wear a helmet, which is just like, what? Like, why? I know like The Bachelor Ever After can have toxic elements, but is like discouraging helmet riding really one of them? Yeah. I feel like they always get to, yeah. They also, so they're in Munich. So they go to Neuschwanstein Castle, which is the 2,000-piece puzzle that we're currently working on and is the inspiration for both Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty is contested. It's definitely Cinderella.
I don't know if it's contested. Maybe.
I'm contesting it.
So at that point, I don't know how this comes up, but Parisa is like talking to Charlie.
Charlie tells Parisa that he likes Dave. And yeah, Parisa's basically like, I know. I love this trope of like where everybody except the two main characters like knows that the two main characters are in love with each other, which is like basically the case here. They're like, yeah, of course you're fucking in love with him. Like, dumbass.
Yeah, she's like, he's your type. Like, and Charlie's like, you think my type is 6'4" skinny guys with bad haircuts? And Parisa's like, yeah. I can't explain why. Like, yes. Yeah.
Yes, of course. And then Charlie and Dave are bonding again, and Charlie explains why he left Winhan, which was his tech company, which he started with his friend Josh Hahn when they were at Stanford together.
His like best friend. Like they were roommates for all of college.
Like, but Josh sucks. Josh is a dick. And Charlie had an anxiety attack once, and he was trying to leave the room, and Josh wouldn't let him leave, and then he had a panic attack in front of the board, and then Josh did like a midnight vote of like no confidence and kicked Charlie out of the company. So he's like trying to get back to his company.
It's extremely shitty.
It's so fucking shitty. I hate Josh. God, I fucking hate Josh.
Yeah.
And now they're zooming on over to South Africa.
I just love Charlie's like full of fun facts. He's like, did you know that South Africa has 11 official languages? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, do you want another fun fact? They're like, I'm sure it won't be fun. He's like, did you know South Africa has 3 capitals? Which I did know. It's Pretoria, Johannesburg, and Bloemfontein. And it's like the economic, political, and I forget what the third one is, capital. It does have 3 capitals. Anyway.
Wow.
Now you all know. But yeah, Charlie's like full of fun facts. Like later on, he's like, did you know South Africa has a large Indian immigrant population? And it's like, Dave did know because Charlie listened to a podcast on the way over here and insisted on reciting the whole thing from memory, which I would definitely do, / I do on a regular basis.
So they get to the hotel, and because Parisa is staying along with them, she and Jules are like, we're going to take the suite. And then Charlie and Dave go into like the other room, and there's only like one king size bed. So it's like a pseudo. There's only one bed. Like, I will take it. They're sharing a bed. And then
not pseudo. It's like full on.
Well, I mean, there's technically more than one bed in the suite. Like they could theoretically.
They're like, they have to pretend to be upset about. They have to make a show about pretending to be mad at shit. And then Dave, this is when Dave tries to get on the bed with his shoes on.
Yeah.
And also he's like, yeah, Charlie's like, it's time to unpack. And Dave's like, I don't want to yet. And Charlie's like, that's how clothes wrinkle. But like, honestly, I never unpack in hotel rooms. And like, you're on, like, how long is the flight from Munich to South Africa? I guess Munich to South Africa is not that far. But like, those same clothes have been packed since Los Angeles to Munich. So like, they've already been in the suitcase for like days, right? So like, what is a few more days gonna do? And to minimize the risk of losing them in the hotel room, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not with you on this one, Charlie.
They're only here for like a week. I can understand like unpacking stuff if you're going to be in the same place for like a month, but like you're only there for a week. Like you got to constantly be packing and repacking. That just sounds very stressful. But I guess Charlie's the one who has to be on TV, so like whatever.
But Dave does it. Khakis don't wrinkle. Cargo shorts. Or khakis do. Cargo shorts don't.
So now they go on like a fake/real date in Cape Town. It feels very real. And like Charlie buys Dave's parents fancy bowls for their anniversary, and it's very sweet. And then they go like up the mountain in like a cable car, and Dave is afraid of heights, but like they make it and they're like, wow, this is so pretty. And Dave has been wearing flip-flops this whole time.
Oh my God.
And Charlie at the beginning was like, don't fucking wear flip-flops. And Dave is like, I've been doing this job for 6 years. Like, I know I can do anything in flip-flops. But this dumbass man gets blisters, and Charlie carries him down the mountain to the cable car. And like, I know it's very cute, but all I can think of is Madame Zeroni from like Holes. Like Charlie's Madame Zeroni, and or like Dave is Madame Zeroni and Charlie is Shia LaBeouf, like carrying him up the mountain.
Can I just say that from the age of like 8 to probably 18, this was me. And like I wore flip-flops everywhere. Like I remember going on like family vacations and dad being like, all right, kids, everyone's got to wear sneakers. And I'd be like, no, I'm literally more, I hate my feet being constricted. Like I'm more comfortable with flip-flops. And that was true. Like I literally, like I walked around Venice in flip-flops. I walked around Disney World in flip-flops. Like, but now I can't imagine. Like, I don't know what, my feet just got significantly like less tolerant, I guess. Maybe I just like used up all their goodwill in those early years. I don't know.
I remember you would always like bully me into doing it, and then I would always regret it. But I would be like, Rachel's going to judge me if I wear sneakers. Like, I have to bring flip-flops for this trip and like walk around in them.
I just hated being too hot. And I feel like shoes were a large contributing factor, at least in my head.
I just want to know that you negatively affected me with this as well. Anyway, Charlie and Dave go back to the hotel and they have sex. And Charlie is not only a virgin with like other men, but he's also just a virgin in general. And I love a virgin hero. I love it so much. It's great. And it's very cute.
They're like, makes sense that a practice date would include practice sex.
Yeah. So Charlie realizes, I forget what triggers this. Charlie realizes that Dave allows a lot of like toxic things to happen on the show. He kind of like calls Dave on it and tells Dave to go to therapy. So they get in a fight. And the next day, Charlie and Daphne go on like a fake overnight, on like an overnight date, which turns out to be fake. Like they don't actually have sex, but it's an overnight date. And Dave is like, Charlie's not ready for this. He's like yelling at Ryan. He's like, why would you do this? And Ryan is like, because we knew you were going to freak out. Shut up. Like Charlie agreed to it. So they're both like, obviously Dave is very upset because he's jealous that his boyfriend / not boyfriend is going on like presumably a sex date with like a hot Barbie lady. And Charlie is just trying to like figure it out. Daphne and Charlie have a heart-to-heart basically. And we don't find this out till later, but like in this overnight, because there are no cameras, they basically plan to like, Charlie's like, I'm going to fake propose to you. And Daphne's like, I'm going to fake accept. And we're just going to fake an engagement for 6 months and then break up. Because like neither of us really wants this. So they team up and I like that. And meanwhile, Dave is like drowning his sorrows at the bar. And that's when he and Ryan have like their heart to heart where Ryan is like, you never let me in. And I'm like, too little too late, Ryan. Like you should have brought this up earlier.
Yeah. That's what Dave says. Dave's like trying to make Ryan feel as bad as possible. And then when Ryan finally storms off, he's like, shockingly enough, making Ryan feel like shit didn't help at all. Like,
yeah. Surprise, surprise.
I wasn't seeing that coming. Yeah.
And then the next day, Charlie, so for those of you not familiar with The Bachelor, usually once, sometimes twice, sometimes many times in recent seasons, there's like a random portion of like the night portion of the group date will be like this obscure country singer who performs like a song and like the couple dance.
Everyone comes in and is like, oh my gosh, Jordy Corgi. Wow, I can't believe it's like someone you've never heard of. Like no one's ever like heard of this person, but they act as if it's this like huge star. They say it in the same way they would be like, oh my gosh, the Jonas Brothers or something. Like, I don't know.
Like, yeah, oh my God, it's like Harry Styles. Yeah. And so that was supposed to happen this night, but instead Charlie was like, I'm going to surprise my boyfriend. And he started organizing this before their fight. But he brings in Dave's favorite, and like Dave's constantly been listening to this artist like the whole time. He brings in his favorite artist, Leland Barlow, who is also like a queer Desi singer. And so like Dave really relates to him and he like writes about mental health and like Dave loves him. It's his favorite artist ever. And so Charlie surprises him for his birthday. Is it Dave's birthday?
It might
I think it's
be.
Dave's birthday. Anyway,
I
he
can't
surprises him.
remember.
It's very cute. Like Dave comes out and he's like, "What's going on?" And then he's like, and like they do like they film like the dance portion of like the women and Charlie dancing, and then like all the crew comes in. They all like have a dance party, and Charlie and Dave are dancing, and then they go outside and they do like a little slow dance. And also before this, because Charlie was like, "You're gonna meet Leland Barlow," he's like, before Dave knows he's gonna meet Leland Barlow, he makes him like dress nice. So he makes him like put on like the jean jacket and like normal pants. He's like, you can't wear like your normal shit. Like you have to like look nice for Leland Barlow. And then Dave is also like having a little gay panic. And really, like if there are just two words that can like best describe this, the entire plot of this book, it's just like gay panic. It's just constant. Like, but then they go to Bali and they have a little date night there, and they're on a boat because who can't fall in love in a boat?
Yeah.
And Charlie keeps picking Dave up. I forget the context of this.
He carries him into the bathroom. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah. I'm like a rolled up newspaper.
Yeah, he's just like Dave is just like a very long string bean. I'm just picturing him being like folded up like a towel. Then Charlie like carries him like into the.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Before they went to Bali, Parisa went home and she gives Charlie a paper bag filled with condoms, lube, and diagrams for like how to have sex.
Yeah, hand-drawn diagrams.
Yeah, hand-drawn diagram. And that comes in handy tonight. So they're like, I think they have like hot shower sex. Like Charlie gives Dave like a blowjob in the shower. And Charlie is like, is your sexual attraction like a surprise to your parents? And Dave is like, no, because like at 5 years old, I told my parents I wanted to marry Aladdin. And I'm like, who didn't? Like, who didn't want to marry Aladdin? Like, gay or straight, like, no matter your gender, like, who didn't?
Here's the thing, though. I would only have wanted to marry Aladdin if I was Jasmine and I was, like, already royalty. Otherwise, it's, like, a life of street rathood, and I don't know if I'd be into that.
I guess.
I was already mercenary even at that age.
Yeah, but then you find out in, like, the Aladdin, like, the third Aladdin sequel that his dad is actually the king of thieves and, like, super rich. So, like, there's some intergenerational wealth to be had with the Aladdin family.
Of course.
And then they're like snuggling in bed and they're imagining like their hypothetical, imaginary, alternate universe life is how they describe it. Where they're like dating and they have a little house in Venice Beach and it's super cute. And they're like, oh, this is lovely. And then they have sex with Parisa's condoms and diagrams and lube.
It smells like bleach and oatmeal.
Yeah, which like I get the oatmeal because of the body wash, but like bleach is like, okay, like why do you want this? I guess they like lavender. So like God knows what's wrong with their sinuses. And our two lovebirds are about to have their worlds rocked because they're dummies.
And now it's time for home kingdom dates.
Where Charlie meets everyone's family.
Great. This is when Charlie gets the text from Josh, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Josh texts Charlie and he's like, hey, I've been seeing the promotion for this super awesome show you've been on. It seems like you're doing much better. Do you want to meet up for brunch and talk business?
What is this Josh voice?
I don't know, but I think it's
trying
to imitate.
It fits.
The audiobook narrator also does a perfect annoying Josh Hahn voice. Like for as good as his Cruella DeVille Maureen voice. I don't even know which audiobook narrator does which, but like they both, hit the spot. Yeah, so Charlie's like, oh my gosh, all my hopes and dreams could be realized. And he's like, yes, I will meet you for brunch, Josh Hahn. But of course, he brings Dave along. Not Dave, Dave.
Dave is his emotional support boyfriend.
Josh, who calls Charlie Chaz. That's first red flag. I mean, first red flag is knowing what we know about Josh Hahn, but he's like, Chaz, hey, bro. And basically, his whole pitch is not having Charlie come back in like any kind of leadership capacity in the company that he helped found, and which his name is still half of. It's called Windhan, like Winshaw. Combined, get it? Okay. And he's like, oh, actually, we're starting this new app. It's like TikTok, but a dating app. And
sounds fucking stupid,
you're the only one. You're the only one who really knows the Windhan coding interface well enough to help us with this. So basically, they need him. They're like trying to grovel and get him back because
they're not groveling.
They don't have anyone else. They're not groveling, but they're like, yeah, you could come back. And Charlie's like a job, and Josh is like, no, you would be like an independent contractor. And like, but like they're not groveling, but like it's because they need him and they like realize that like they don't have anyone else who knows the whole like coding interface as well as he does or whatever.
And Josh is wearing Patagonia, and he just like really like Patagonia does not deserve the bad press that Josh Hahn's personality gives him. But anyway, yeah, so Dave stands up for Charlie. He's like, "You're a dick and I'm going outside." So Dave storms off, and then Charlie this whole time has been realizing that like
Dave gives a whole like angry speech, like tirade.
Yeah.
You're really downplaying it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't have it memorized. He stands up. It's the classic, like, don't talk to my boyfriend like that speech.
Yeah.
And then Charlie, this whole conversation has been realizing that, yeah, he deserves better than like Josh and the way he was treated. And also that like, it wasn't the work that he liked. It was just the fact that he was like stopping himself from living by like focusing on work so much. And so he's like, yeah, but I have Dave now. And like, I have self-confidence that I didn't have before. And like, maybe I can live. And he's been working currently with like the Winshaw Foundation, which is so fucking pretentious, but I know it's his name, that does, I guess, like charity, like it's a foundation. And he's like, I like doing that right now. And so I'm just going to keep doing that for now and not allow Josh to stomp all over me again. And then they go out and they're just cute little boyfriends that walk into the sunset, except not into the sunset, right into Daphne's hometown.
So Daphne basically her dad's a pastor. She comes from like a very conservatively religious community in the South. And so Daphne has sort of like already hinted at, she's like, yeah, I've been trying my whole adult life to like find the relationship that I feel like I'm supposed to be in. And I've gone on all these dates with all these guys, but none of it like feels right. So I'm just really excited to like, even if it's fake, like I think it'll make my parents and my family really happy to see that I'm in a relationship.
Yeah.
And so that's like what's in it for her.
Yeah, I mean, it goes really well. Her dad is like, "You're an atheist app designer. Great." But then he's also like has some coded homophobia because he's like, "We were starting to worry when Daphne didn't bring anyone home." And I'm like,
was that necessarily
what are you worrying about, sir?
I've heard that a lot. It's just a general worry that my child will be alone forever.
But I don't know, just the context of it, like, I just feel like when a lot of people say that, like, a lot of times it's like, "Oh, I was starting to worry, like, she didn't like men." I don't know. Maybe I'm just projecting. Anyway, zoom on forward to the next crowning ceremony, and Daphne decides to free them all. She is like, I don't want to get engaged. I want to pursue my self-happiness. No, the whole time we've also been getting, we haven't really mentioned this because they're not super relevant to the plot, but in between every few chapters, there'll be like notes for story editors, and it'll be like behind the scenes stuff that like Charlie and Dave didn't witness, so that we weren't privy to before. And so you've been sort of like watching Daphne's like self-realization and like sapphic experience like blossoming this whole time. So it wasn't super surprising, but she's basically just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sending myself home. And Maureen Scott reveals her capitalist, homophobic, horrible personality once and for all. And it's like, no, Charlie and Daphne are going to get engaged at the end of this. And Charlie's like, yeah, but what if I'm gay? Like, what, like, I don't want to get engaged to a woman. And she's like, yeah, but we have all that footage of you having panic attacks and of like all this like terrible stuff. And basically she's like, I'm blackmailing you into like proposing to Daphne at the end.
Yeah, she's like, you think we haven't had gay bachelors before? Like, it doesn't matter as long as you dance to my tune. Like, I don't care. And this is definitely not how the real bachelor works. Like, the contestants at least can leave whenever they want, right? Like, there's no way they could blackball a contestant.
They're not blackmailing Daphne. They can blackmail Charlie, but I think the reason Daphne stays is because she's there to witness all of this. And she's like, if I leave right now, like, I'm screwing Charlie over. Like, I can't do that to him because they're friends. Like, they're genuine friends. Like, they do like each other.
Yeah, I just feel like the threat to show the Charlie anxiety cut would definitely backfire on the show. Like, I just can't see how, especially in 2021, like, okay, maybe it would be mutually assured destruction because like the business bros would hate Charlie even more. But it would also like most of the people watching the show would be like, what the fuck? Like, why are you showing this and like trying to make this person look bad when it's clearly like a mental health?
I don't know, like, because I'm just thinking about the way like people in recent seasons have been given like villain edits when it's like very clear that like there's something up. Like there was that one guy on what was it, Katie's season? Tasha's season, Claire's season? I think it was Katie's season. And he has Tourette's, but like that was never spoken about on the show. And he had like a brief one episode villain arc, and there was just like parts where he was like making like he was like experiencing Tourette's, like he was having symptoms of his Tourette syndrome, but the way that they edited it made it just seem like he was like making weird noises. He was like opening his mouth or something, and they edited it to just make it seem like he was like going crazy. And I wouldn't have known. Like the only reason I found out was because he went on his Instagram later and was like, I have Tourette's. And Katie like reposted, The Bachelorette reposted and was like, he has Tourette's. Like we talked about this.
Yeah.
So
maybe
it's very easy, I think, to edit someone to make them look like not that they have like a mental, I mean, yeah, like not that they have a mental health
crazy,
problem,
quote unquote, mean.
Yeah, I just think like most, I think it's very just like the way that they like do villain edits, like they know how to like edit people to make you like dislike them instead of like empathize with them.
Yeah. So during this blow up, Dave does not intervene.
Nobody intervenes.
But nobody intervenes. Yeah. He slinks away.
So like Charlie's really pissed because nobody stood up for him. He's like, you all know like how fucked up it is, and like none of you are saying anything to Maureen, and he's really pissed. But then he comes back to the hotel and he sees Dave, and there's like confessions of love, like they're both like, I'm in love with you, but it's like it's very heartbreaking because it's like very clear that it's too late. Like Dave has just like fully started to pull away. And then the next morning Charlie wakes up
and he's like, I wonder why my jean jacket and oatmeal body wash are gone. And Dave's like hightailed it out of there, but he made sure to keep his goods.
Yeah, Dave has quit the show. Like he's left. But he's like, I just like imagine him like sneaking around in the night and like unhooking the jean jacket from Charlie's hanger and like going into the bathroom and like taking the body wash. Just like wrapping it up in a plastic Walmart bag and like shoving it in his suitcase. Oh, I'm sorry, a plastic Costco bag.
So then we cut to 3 months in the future. And Dave has gone full underground, full off grid. He's living with his parents in North Carolina. He is not leaving the house except for biweekly therapy. And he is definitely not watching Ever After, which I have some issues about.
He doesn't want to watch it. I get it. It's triggering. He also schedules therapy for like Monday nights so that he can't watch it. We find out his parents.
So he goes to therapy and he's like, oh, I'm pretty sure my therapist is the secret member of the Fairy Tale family, which I love. Fairy Tale family, Bachelor Nation, because he gets this like little smile whenever Dave mentions the show. But once we find out like what's on the show, I'm like, and we find out that Dave's parents like definitely secretly watch.
Yeah, he comes back from therapy and he's like, I see their guilty expressions in the crooked remote on the couch.
But like once we find out what's on the show, I feel like yes, it's Dave's boundary to not watch it, but I feel like it would have just been correcting a misapprehension to tell him, because it's like, okay, it's like if Romeo and Juliet, let's say like alternate timeline, Romeo and Juliet break up and Romeo tells his friend like, hey, I don't want to hear anything about Juliet. I just like don't want to know anything about her. But then he finds out that Juliet like dies. But there's another friend who knows that Juliet's not dead. But that friend's like, oh, well, I can't tell Romeo that Juliet's not dead because that would be crossing his boundary to not hear about Juliet. But it's like, it's to correct a misapprehension. I know, but it's like, it's to correct like.
Yeah, but whatever. I think, I don't know, the way I saw it in the context of the story was that like Dave needed to get his shit together. Like he needed to heal by himself, like totally separate from his relationship with Charlie, before he could be in a healthy relationship with Charlie. Like even like it wouldn't have been helpful for him to have had that misapprehension corrected because he hadn't sorted out like all his other trauma that he needed to work through. And Dave also this whole time has been falling asleep. Like Charlie has left him a bunch of voicemails because like Dave's been deleting everybody's texts from the show. He like doesn't want to know, like he doesn't even read them, but he's kept Charlie's voicemails. And they're just basically like Charlie being like, Dave, talk to me. And there's this one like, what is it, a minute and 42 seconds long voicemail that's Charlie just being like, I miss you so much. Like, I don't know how to live without you. And like Dave just falls asleep to it every night. I'm like, oh my God.
And he also has been buying the oatmeal body wash by the crate, which made me feel better because he did take that bottle of Charlie's. And like knowing what we know about Dave's grubbiness, I wouldn't have been surprised if he made that one bottle last the full 3 months. So the fact that he's been like ordering it. Honestly, though, actually, one bottle lasting 3 months is not that. I feel like that I could do that. I don't know.
It shows that he's
so, like, why does he need
of
crates
it.
of
He's
it?
really
It shows that he's committed to using it for the future. Yeah, and like taking bubble baths with it like every night.
It.
Yeah.
Dave also he got an agent for his script, for the script that he wrote.
Jacket.
So he's really he's healing, he's moving ahead with his dreams. And then he comes downstairs one day after falling asleep to listening to Charlie's voicemail, and there's a bunch of voices in his living room, and he's like, "What the heck?"
It's like, why are there strangers in my house?
But it's the whole Ever After crew. It's Jules and Skylar and Ryan fixes Dave's dad's computer because, like, you know, they dated for 6 years. So, like, Ryan knows Dave's parents.
Yeah, Dave said this happened. This was like set up the night before when Dave came home from therapy, and his dad's like, Dave, the printer is blinking again. Like, can you please fix it? And Dave's like, yeah, I'll look at it in the morning. And then when Ryan comes over, Dave's dad is like, Ryan, it was working since when you fixed it the last time you were here. Like, when you fix it again.
I love it. But basically, they go up and you're like, you've been ignoring us, you total dick. And Dave is, you know, feels a little bit bad about it. But he's like, you have to watch this season of Ever After. Like, we have come to force you to watch it. And they do. And he watches it. He sits down. So an episode of The Bachelor is like, I would say like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, like excluding commercial breaks. And so initially I was like, he sits down and doesn't move from this couch for like 17 hours because he watches everything but the finale. He doesn't even go to the bathroom.
And he doesn't eat except when his mom literally puts food in his mouth.
But then the book tells us that it's only been 12 hours, which is like slightly better, but still like, Jesus Christ. But it turns out that they edited it to show Dave and Charlie's love story because it's been set up throughout the book that like Dave has signed a release that they're allowed to use any footage where he like accidentally ends up on camera. So it's just all the like, it's like a normal season of Ever After, but like sprinkled throughout. It's like Dave and Charlie falling in love, and it's so cute.
And they also have like different things that the contestants said. So like when Charlie brings Leland Barlow to South Africa for Dave, they have Angie being like, I think this is the cutest thing anyone has ever done for their producer.
Because Angie's like, oh my, like his quote unquote producer. Okay, guys, like, sure.
Yeah. But we also found out before Dave left that Ryan like has known about Charlie and Dave the whole time. So that's where like Ryan gets his redemption arc, and this is where we find
everybody's known about Charlie and Dave. Like Skylar at one point is like, yeah, I'm not fucking blind. I know everything that goes on in this set. Like Ryan knew, Jules knew, like everybody was in the know because these two dummies are just like constantly looking at each other with heart eyes, and like there's no way nobody else noticed. Yeah, so then we find out Dave is like, what the fuck? Like, how? Like, Maureen would never let this happen, that you would do this, like, queer edit. And they're like, well, turns out that discriminating against people for being gay, which is what Maureen did to Charlie, is illegal. And Parisa threatened to sue because, again, she's like a Renaissance woman. And and then the network was like, oh, we don't want that. So they fired Maureen. And then they like let them edit it.
They hired Parisa as the head of PR.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how often does that happen? That the person who threatens to sue you ends up getting hired by you?
Just for the transition. She's not like, it's not a full-time position. She's just there for the transition. Okay. Yeah. And Skylar's hair is growing back because she's no longer chugging Tums because she's so stressed for Maureen. Yeah. And they're all doing much better. And then Dave like has a little panic attack, and he's like, I can't go and like grand gesture Charlie right back because like whatever. Because it turns out that Charlie orchestrated all of this. Charlie was like, this is how you're going to edit this season. Like, this is my game plan. And which is that Jerry Maguiring? I've never actually seen Jerry Maguire, but like I've seen it referenced, and I feel like it's like a big like public, possibly media focused grand gesture. So I'm going to say that Charlie Jerry Maguire is Dave. And then Jules comes back and she's like, she basically just gives like Dave a little pep talk, and she's like, you have to go grand gesture him. So the next night is the live finale, which is not like, they're not filming like the proposal live or whatever, but it's like they show the episode and like people like react. Like that's how it works in The Bachelor. And Charlie is very sad because he thinks that Dave has just been ignoring him and not really just like, you know, turtling up in his little North Carolina apartment with his parents. And he's doing a interview with Mark Davenport, who's like the host of the show, and
he waltzes out to his weekly 15 minutes of work.
Yes. Then Charlie's like, I don't know that I would like want to talk to Dave. Like, he's being like hedgy, and Dave is like, oh, absolutely not. Like, my boyfriend is not gonna like put the nail in the coffin of our relationship. He like sprints out like an action movie hero, and Charlie's like, oh my God, Dave. And Dave is like, oh my God, Charlie. And then like Dave is like, I'm sorry. And Charlie's like, are you gonna freak out again? And Dave is like, no, I've been to therapy. And then they kiss.
And Dave like accidentally says fuck multiple times on live television.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're standing on the other side. They're on the other ends of the stage before they kiss, but they're like having their like their heart to heart, their conversation. And Charlie is like, at one point in his head, he's like, Dave is like 2 Dave's lengths away. And like,
Yeah.
I think I maybe misheard it when we were listening to it. And like, maybe it's not like he's saying he's like 2 steps away, but like I heard it like he was like measuring the distance in Dave, and Dave is 6'4". So I was like, okay, so he's 12 feet 8 inches away from Dave on the stage right now. And I personally would like to advocate that we all start measuring things in terms of our significant others. Like, I really enjoy that. Like, let's bring that into like the romance canon.
Definitely. Yeah, they kiss. And this is like, so there's several tangential lips and teeth and tongue references throughout this, but it's always like excluding lips because I guess men don't have lips. It's always like he kisses Deb with hands and his teeth and his tongue, and Mark Davenport's sitting there looking gleeful.
Yes. And then Mark Davenport, he's like, we gotta do it, because they made Charlie wear a crown because like he's the, you know, the prince of Ever After. And then they bring out the crown and Charlie is like, will you be my prince? And then Dave gets to be crowned and fulfills all his wildest childhood dreams.
Yeah.
And then the epilogue is Daphne season of the Ever After Bachelorette. And she is gay. So it's a lesbian bachelorette. And I just, I was filled with so much longing when I saw this. I was like, why can't the regular Bachelor franchise give us this? Like, please.
And Daphne gets to wear a helmet on her horse riding scene.
So like, I guess they only specifically didn't care about Charlie's neck breaking, and like everybody else.
Well, I guess it's like new leadership.
Oh, that's true. I guess it is new leadership. All right.
Charlie's so soft and squishy that they thought he would just like bounce but he's really not soft and squishy at all. I don't know what I'm saying.
Has rock hard muscles. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway,
speaking of things that would bounce, when you drop a cat, they land on their feet. So let's discuss the cat scale of this book.
Wait, side note. You know how cats are like flexible because apparently they don't have collarbones the same way we do that are like connected to other bones?
Yeah, sure.
So like that's why they can like squish their shoulders. What about their hips? Like what about I know I could easily just like Google cat skeleton, but I don't really want to do that.
I don't know, but I know that cats, their whiskers, they measure things with their whiskers. So they stick their head in, and if it's wider than their whiskers, then they can't fit through it. So it's
what do you mean can't?
They cannot fit through if it's wider than
if it's wider
than their whiskers.
That doesn't
like if it's
sense.
like their whiskers stick out from their face.
You mean if their whiskers are wider than it, if it's narrower than their whiskers?
Oh, yes. Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
If it's narrower than their whiskers.
Interesting.
Cats use their whiskers to measure.
I just feel like they must have collapsible hips also, or else that wouldn't make sense.
Possibly. Why isn't there like widespread hip dysplasia among the cat population?
I think there is actually. Cats. I think because I tried to Google this without Googling like cat skeleton, and that's what came up is like treatments for hip dysplasia.
Interesting. Yes, but is it widespread?
Like
I think
Shepherd.
that's the real.
I
know German Shepherds have it because like the purebred lobby has like fucked up dogs demonstrably. But neither of these heroes are German Shepherds. But I think, I don't know, actually. I was about to say Charlie was a cat, but like now that I'm thinking about it, like I think he's just like, you know what I think he is? Charlie is like one of those, you know that Instagram account with all the senior dogs? So Charlie is a senior dog, like a scrappy, like a little scrappy, just like senior dog, old man.
You can link to that too. It's
like Wolfgang something. I'll find it.
Wolfgang.
Yeah, I'll link to it. Yeah, I think Charlie's a senior dog, like a small senior dog. Like he's like a small little like lap senior dog. I think that's what Charlie is.
Like he's Wolfgang. He's Engelbert.
No, yeah, because I'm pretty sure Wolfgang is the
it's the big dog.
Is the Irish
Engelbert is the original.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Charlie's a little dog. I don't know what Dave is. He's very like because his personality is that he's very like high energy and like bopping around all the time. But he's also like, so maybe he's also a dog when he's like on his highs. He's like a dog fresh out of the shower. Dog. He's a dog fresh out of the shower, like zooming around the house.
And grubby.
Yes.
Like,
and then when he's on his lows, or like a dog that has just like rolled in a puddle of mud and like their owner's trying to catch them and they're just like zooming around the yard.
Yeah.
But then like when he's in his depressive episodes, he's just like a dog taking a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think either of them are cats. I think the side characters are cats. I think Paris is a cat. I think Jules is a cat. I think Daphne's a cat.
Daphne's a cat.
Yeah,
Daphne's a cat. Angie, maybe.
Yeah.
Angie's dog.
Angie's like
cat
a golden
dog.
retriever in like the best possible way.
We need a category for cat dog from Cartoon Network.
What?
Cat dog.
Yeah, so neither of our two main characters, like they're both dogs for sure. And I don't think there was a lot of like growling or like mewling. No literal cats.
No.
Only frogs.
And horses.
We established that horses don't look like cats.
No, but bears do sometimes.
Sure, but there were also no bears.
No, sadly.
All
right. 3, 2, 1.
3. Did we both say 3?
Yeah, you said it on delay.
No, we said it at the same time this time. I was about to be like, look at that. We said it at the same time.
No, it was so delayed.
No, I think it's because you're blurry right now and your Wi-Fi is bad. Anyway, yes.
You're blurry and your Wi-Fi is bad.
Where can they find us, Rachel?
Well, so they can find us on Instagram at We Read It One Night, on Facebook at We Read It One Night, on Twitter at We Read It Podcast. And you can also email us any suggestions you might have for books or otherwise. We Read It One Night at gmail.com. Also,
TikTok.
Be sure to... TikTok, yes. If you want to see the infamous cake video, which as we speak, as we are finishing recording this, is at 215.5 thousand views. Yes, sirree.
Wow.
Crowning achievement. That is also at We Read It One Night. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave us a review and rating. 5 stars, please.
Yes.
And on anywhere else you're listening, if there's a rating system, that is
we know
also
that
very
most of
much
you are on
appreciated.
Spotify because we are tracking you. We are the FBI agents in your webcams. We know that most of you are on Spotify, and I don't know anything about Spotify, but I don't think there's a rating system. So just like share the link to like your favorite episode and tell all your friends to listen. Yeah. Speaking of depression, if you would like to cure my depression. Like every time our download count goes up, every time like we get a like, every time we get a follow, like I get a little drip of dopamine. So if you would like to help cure my depression, share our podcast. Keep listening and share our podcast.
All right. Godspeed, comrades.
Godspeed.